pyramid schemes do not need the internet. They do not even need money. All they need is a person standing before a fire and saying, I know a place with a lot of food, but if you want to follow me, you must contribute your share first. Imagine a hunter-gatherer camp that is starving. No banks, no stocks, no investment contracts, no red and green profit charts. Only a few temporary huts, a weak fire, children going hungry, adults looking toward the forest, and a man who has just returned from a long journey. In his hand is a little honey, not much, but enough for the whole camp to smell its sweetness. He says deep in the valley there is a place full of beehives. Large animals pass through, and ripe fruit lies all over the ground, but the road is far and dangerous. More people are needed, good spears are needed, dried food is needed. Someone has to believe him first. And in a world without money, that may have been the oldest form of a pyramid-style scam, not a financial pyramid scheme in the modern sense. Stone Age people had no e-wallets, no interest rates, no investment platforms, but they had everything every scam needs. Fear, hope, witnesses, reputation, and a community that had to trust one another to survive. The most dangerous scam in the Stone Age was not stealing a piece of meat, but making the whole camp believe that if they followed you, tomorrow they would have more meat. The question is not whether he lied from the very beginning. The question is, in a starving camp, any lie can sound like hope. Food in the hunter-gatherer era was not like a personal meal today. One person may have meat today and come back empty-handed tomorrow. A family may dig up tubers today and find nothing next week. Hunting was always uncertain. Studies of some modern hunter-gatherer groups show that hunting success rates are not high at all. Hadza about 28%, Kung about 27%. F ranges around 10 to 30%, which means failure was not an accident. Failure was a normal part of life. So sharing food was not just kindness. It was like a form of survival insurance. Today I share with you, tomorrow, when I have nothing, you share back with me. No one called it insurance, but the stomach understood it very well. Some research models on food sharing networks also show that when food is shared through relationships within the group, the risk of hunger for individuals and the whole community can decrease. To put it more simply, one person did not fight hunger alone. The whole camp fought hunger. By turning one person's food into a chance of survival, for many people, that is why, if someone exploited that system, he was not just cheating people out of one meal. He was cheating the very cord that kept the whole group from collapsing. The man with the honey knew that. He did not say, give me money. He said, whoever wants to follow me tomorrow, contribute a portion of dried food. Whoever has a good spear, bring the spear. Whoever has flint, bring flint. Whoever has a strong son, let him come along. He will return with more. And a few people believed, maybe his cousins, maybe two young men who wanted to prove themselves, maybe a mother worried about her hungry child. They contributed a few things and followed him. Then the next day they returned with some real honey, some real sweet fruit, a real piece of meat. Not much, but enough for the camp to start whispering. They followed him, and they got to eat. That was the moment the fire scam became dangerous, because the promise no longer stood alone. It had living proof in a modern pyramid scheme. The first people who are truly paid can become living advertisements. In a Stone Age camp, the first people who truly got to eat did the same thing. They did not need live streams. They only needed to sit by the fire, lick honey from their hands, and say that place really existed. The next day, more people wanted to go, but the conditions had changed. The man said the last trip was only the outer edge. To go deeper, they needed to prepare more. Each person had to bring more food, more spears, more rope, more fire. And if anyone knew other strong people, bring them along, because the valley was larger than we imagined. No one called it recruitment, but the whole camp began to operate like a network. Those who had honey persuaded those who had none. Those who had received a small share told others that a bigger share was waiting ahead. Those who came later contributed more than those who came before, but they believed they only had to wait a little longer. There was no profit board, but there was a story more beautiful than reality. They were not buying a product. They were buying the feeling that they were about to enter a secret before everyone else. And in a small camp, social proof was much stronger than it is today. 4 witnesses, not strange accounts on the internet, but people who slept beside you, hunted with you, had once shared meat with you, had once carried your child when you were sick. In the modern world, A scam can use screenshots of profits. In a hunter-gatherer camp, the screenshot was the neighbor with honey in his mouth. But then someone began to ask, if that place was so good, why didn't you take the whole camp there yesterday? The man did not panic. He said the path was hard to remember. The animals could easily run off. The hives could not be taken too early. If too many people went, they would ruin the tracks. They had to wait for the right wind. They had to prepare more. They had to trust him one more time. It sounded very reasonable. And that very reasonableness kept everyone in place. The next trip brought back less than expected. There was no valley full of animals, no dozens of beehives, only a few fruits, a little honey, a small animal caught along the way. But the man still divided the shares very skillfully. 2 people from the first trip still got a little share. One influential person in the camp got to taste first. A strong young man was praised and told he would get more next time. If he brought more people along, newcomers had to wait. He said this time was not the right season. Today the wind changed. The animal tracks were lost. Tomorrow would be better. The next trip needed more people. If they stopped now, all of today's effort would be wasted. This was when the scam began to live off. The very people who had believed in it. Because the first people who got to eat did not want to admit they had been used. They had told others that the place was good. They had pulled in brothers, hunting friends, and relatives. If the man was exposed, they would lose face too. So they defended him. Not because they were sure he was right, but because they were afraid they had been wrong. The scariest thing was not that he was lying. The scariest thing was that too many people had placed their own reputations inside that lie. Then a child found a bone behind a bush. Not an old bone, but one that still smelled of smoke. It lay where no one used as a cooking fire, hastily covered with dry leaves. The child picked it up and ran toward the fire, holding the bone up in front of everyone, as if he had found a toy. The atmosphere changed instantly. The man looked at the bone longer than anyone else. An elder looked toward the place where he kept his bag. The mother who had contributed dried food for the second trip slowly placed her hand over the mouth of her own bag. No one needed to shout. A single bone had spoken for the whole valley. If that place was truly full of food, why hide a portion behind a bush? If yesterday's trip was truly so meager, why did the bones smell of fresh smoke? If everything was shared fairly, why was something buried in a hurry before returning to camp? A modern scammer can turn off the phone, change names, and disappear to another city. But in a hunter-gatherer group, he cannot disappear so easily. He has to eat with the people he cheated, sleep near them, hunt with them, hear children repeat his own story, and look into the eyes of the person who had contributed the last of their food to him. People did not need to prove everything immediately. They only needed to begin to doubt. And in a society that lived by sharing, doubt could be more dangerous than a wound. Because reputation there was like a credit record. No one wrote scores on a board, but everyone remembered whether this person shared their portion, whether that person told the truth, whether this person hid meat, whether that person made promises and forgot them, whether this person led the group to real food, or merely led them in circles until they were tired and hungry. Research on the Hadza shows that people pay attention to reputation when sharing. In one study with 92 Hadza people, they then rated their campmates on generosity and foraging ability, then shared resources with those people. The results showed that a reputation for generosity could influence whether others wanted to share with you. And it shows a very reasonable point. In a small community, others remember what kind of person you are. And if they remember you as a cheat, you do not just lose honor. You lose your future. The next day, the man said again that he knew a new route. This time, no one stood up right away. A young man looked down at his spear. The mother pulled her food bag closer. An elder looked toward the bone placed beside the fire. The child giggled and pointed at his hand. No one hit him, but something had changed. A hunting group did not call him along. Someone who had once shared dried food with him turned away. The people who had once defended him now stayed silent because they themselves felt ashamed. The punishment was not prison. The punishment was losing the right to be trusted. If he was hungry later, others might share more slowly. If he said there were animals near the stream, others might check first. If he said he needed more people to follow him, everyone might ask, where was the animal last time? If he wanted to marry, the other family might remember that this person once made the whole camp follow an empty promise. In the modern era, you fear having your account locked. In the Stone Age, the thing locked away could be the whole community. This is what made pyramid schemes before money dangerous. They did not just take food from others, they made people doubt the very mechanism that helped them survive. If everyone began to think others were hiding their share, everyone would share less. If everyone feared being cheated, no one would want to contribute effort first. If no one contributed effort first, hunting trips became harder. Finding food became harder. Children and elders were in greater danger. An experimental study with 117 Hadza people also showed that sharing was not simply everyone naturally being generous. When placed in a situation that benefited themselves, many people did not automatically share equally when at a disadvantage. They tended to take back more. In other words, fairness does not come only from a good heart. It also comes from social pressure, from the demand to share, from the fact that the whole group watches and remembers one another. This makes the story more real. Hunter-gatherers were not angels living around the fire. Because they were human, they too had greed, fear, cleverness, foolishness, shame, self-defense, and the desire for a better share for themselves. So a pyramid-style scam, if placed in that world, did not need to look modern. It did not need a suit, did not need a presentation, did not need a profit account. It only needed one person who understood that others were hungry. He fed a few people first. He made them tell the story for him. He told latecomers to contribute more. He hid the risks and exaggerated the reward, turning a small truth into a big hope. Then, when that hope collapsed, he did not just lose food. He lost the thing no one could hunt in the forest, trust. That night, he still sat beside the fire, but the circle around him was wider than before. When he told of the secret valley, everyone leaned in to listen. Now, when he opened his mouth, someone looked away without saying much. The whole camp understood. Maybe tomorrow he would still be fed. Maybe no one would drive him away. Maybe after many seasons, he would regain a little reputation. If he truly hunted, truly shared, and told the truth. But his promises would no longer feel light as before. Every sentence would have to drag behind it the shadow of that bone that may have been the oldest version of a collapse of trust. No police bursting in, no frozen accounts, no victims going online to tell their stories, only a fire, a silent group of people, and a man who once sold hope, realizing that from now on, no one would buy his hope easily anymore. If there was a pyramid scheme in the Stone Age, it did not sell profit, it sold tomorrow. It said, "Give me food today. I will lead you to more food tomorrow. Give me your labor today. I will give you a larger share tomorrow. Trust me today, because if you do not, someone else will go ahead of you." Sound familiar? The only difference is that back then there were no phone screens, no referral codes, no growth charts, no boasting about making money while sleeping, only hungry stomachs, honey, stone-tipped spears, a few early people who truly got to eat, a bone hidden behind a bush, and a promise too beautiful to ignore. The oldest scam in human history may not have been taking what someone else already had, but promising them a meal tomorrow, then making them pay for it with today's meal.